The Rocket Review is sponsored by Why Not Saloon.
We're so thrilled to have on the show platinum artist, singer, songwriter, author, and actor, John Ford Coley. John, it's great to have you in.
Thank you very much. I thought you were going to throw in brutally handsome and humble there for a
Also
second.
that as well, which would be truthful. You know, I feel like I know you so well from listening to your catalog over the years. Certainly, you know, what you accomplished in the duo, you know, England Dan and John Ford Coley, but also here in Nashville, you know, with your own solo body of work and getting to hang out with you at the Bluebird Cafe, you know, months ago. That was pretty amazing, sitting next to you. And you know, just all the new music you're still doing, and we got to talk about this.
It's great to get up close and personal with people because, again, if you're on a stage, I don't care how far back you are, you're still up there like that. But I mean, the songwriter in the rounds, you get to hear some music, you get to find out the personality of the individual.
Totally, and it really is just so. I mean, and you certainly live up, you know, to what you've accomplished over the years with your music and everything else. And I want to bring up Sketches Volume 1, first time streaming.
Yep.
And also Eclectic, I believe, also your album.
Right.
How's that feel to have this music out now? Because, you know, once again, like we said, you're so well known for so many songs that we all grew up with, but you've continued writing and creating music and with these albums.
Well, that's the funny thing about it is because, again, I've been out with so many groups, Turtle Bread, Chicago, Elton John, and you watch people do this, meteoric rise, and all of a sudden it either starts to go like this or it goes like this.
Right.
So you expect that. You know that it's very ephemeral, you're not going to last forever, so you hit it while you've got the time. And then it's dead. You're still doing stuff, but nobody knows that you're doing stuff. So it all goes into the you know, the drawer, and you just continue to write and hope that maybe someday something will happen.
Well, and also though, John, you know, with your songs, you know, Really Want to See You Tonight, so many singles that came off all those years ago, and that you can still perform those, and you're constantly songwriting and creating new material today.
Yeah. And when I play, 90% of the time, I play by myself, just piano and guitar. Because again, I know I'm going to show up. I don't have to turn to anybody if somebody yells out, hey, play Falling Stars, and go, you guys know Falling Stars? And I just do it. And I tell everyone that I play because I love to take responsibility for things. So if you mess up in a band, you kind of guess who did it.
Oh, totally.
You're up there by yourself. It doesn't take a 180 IQ to figure out who just screwed up.
There's nowhere to hide.
No place to hide. So we call it playing naked.
But also, I think with your past hits, you know, I think you had 20 top hits, but also with your new singles that are so incredible as well. A real great song can hold up that way.
Absolutely.
When it's stripped down and you hear you singing it and playing keyboards or playing guitar, if it can hold up to that in the round, that's a substantial song.
I remember there was a song by a country artist that I did not like. I thought, it's just contrived. They're trying too hard on this thing. So I just dismissed the song. One night I heard the guy on the Opry. He was playing by himself, and I'm listening to this song, and I thought, what was it that I did not like? This song is brilliant, but it was honest at that point. You know, we got to have a hit. We're going to make it a hit. We're going to put all the drums in and everything. And it's like, no, it was an honest song.
Well, I think that's what you do so well, you know, playing live. And I've got to bring up also, speaking of Opry, that you made your debut, I believe, November of 2022. I think you're due to get back on there, right?
I hope so. Yeah, I'd love to get up there and stand where my cousin stood. You know, my cousin she was a distant relative, and I never got to meet her. But every time that I would come back through Dallas, I'd go see my aunt, and they'd go, "Did you see your cousin?" I go, no, I did not get to do it, but that was a mini Pearl.
Oh my gosh.
So, yeah.
How incredible is that? Well, and you brought it up too, John. I wanted to talk about it to where, you know, growing up in Dallas, Texas, and, you know, and certainly, you know, some of the bands that you went through with Dan Seals and everything to where, you know, I think the one was where your name was first, and then you had These Few. You know, so you had several band incarnations before it became England Dan and John Ford Coley.
We actually played in the same band. The band would change the name. So when I got into the band, they they had a guitar player that quit. Dan wanted another guitar player, but all the other guys in the band wanted a piano player. So they found me, as Doc, the bass player, is fond of saying, in ROTC. They heard that I played piano, but I'm classically trained.
I was going to bring that up.
So here you've got all this, which is diametrically opposed to rock and roll in essence. And so Dan and I didn't get along. He didn't want me in the band. Wow. He thought, I want another guitar player. So I'm trying not to tick Dan off all the time. We would travel, going to various gigs, and we just kind of warm up and sing. And Dan was a great singer, so we would do things like the Everly Brothers, or Chad and Jeremy, or Peter and Gordon, all these kinds of things. And we developed a sound over that whole thing. Well, then we became closer than brothers. We changed the name of the band when the psychedelic kind of stuff came out to These Few. And then we changed it later on to the Southwest FOB when we started playing the soul music and stuff like that. And then we just kind of went on our own, and we couldn't find a name. So the Collie Wayland, we're just trying to look for something. And that was the only time that I had the front center stage.
I know, I just thought it was so funny. It's like, going, wait a minute, his name's first.
Right. And then they would put me, when we take photographs, they would put me on the front side so it looked like I'm England Dan. And nobody could figure out what in the heck it was.
But you guys had great hair. I mean, we were talking before we started the interview, John, to where it's like, it's like the hair. You guys both just had like the glamour shots hair on those albums and music video and, performances like before it was even a thing.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about hair another time,
But I mean, I had to bring this up too. Correct me if I'm wrong, but like when you guys were like doing the Shimmers, with that band, and then you come to Nashville, and then things were going great, things were looking up, and then your producer died?
Right. Well, the Shimmers,
thank you.
Was These Few who became Southwest. It's the same guys.
Just different names.
Just different names, and just a different incarnation of it. Actually, I joke a lot about, if you have a new band member, someone leaves the band, you have a new band member come in, it's no longer that band. You've got a new person, so you need to change the name.
Right.
So when I came into the Playboys 5, at the beginning, I was a replacement. I was not an original. But when we changed the name, I became an original.
Right.
So it's kind of a petty sort of a thing, but you want to always keep the original thing. It's like I look at so many of these bands now, and you got maybe one guy, maybe two, and I tell everybody, well, I'm the last remaining original member of England Dan and John Ford Coley, but I did have a 50-50 chance, so.
But I got to bring this up and brag on you too, to where you've been out on tour with Air Supply, and you're going to be touring with Jim Messina. You've done all these great things, and Rock the Dock.
Right.
It seems to be going great because I mean, so many of these bands that you're out on tour and playing with, we all grew up with this music, and like you said earlier before we came in the studio, it's those memories.
That's what people come to the concerts for, because again, you go down memory lane thinking about all this stuff. As a matter of fact, I tell a little joke on stage that I always go out after the show's over, sign autographs, hug people. I love to hug people, right? And so I began to notice that there was tension between people, and I couldn't quite figure it out. It's kind of unsettling, And one night, I'm standing at the merch table, and there's the line, and this guy is standing next to this lady, and she's going on and on and on. My boyfriend and I back in high school danced to your song here, and we did this song, and she's just going on. And I went, I get it. I get it. So I tell them, look, the chances are pretty good that the person you came with to the concert tonight might not necessarily be thinking about you during the song. Right. It's okay, let it go.
Yeah.
It's 50 years ago.
Yeah. It's hard to believe, but you have had a 6-decade career.
Yeah.
And I got to bring this up too. I mean, you've been in TV and film. You've even been on America's Most Wanted, but not as the person they're looking for.
Right.
Which is great. I mean, and then your book that came out in 2009, Backstage. I think you might have to update it now.
I think I am, because there's so many things that continue to go on. I attract funny. I don't know why. It's just things will happen, stories, and then you put them together.
Right.
Like there's one that I tell, I've got to put in the book, but I was playing in Annapolis, Maryland. I am firmly convinced the only reason why Lee never attacked in the Civil War in Maryland was because inside of 15 minutes, the entire Confederate Army would have been irretrievably lost. You can't find anything in Maryland.
Oh my gosh.
So I had the GPS on. I get to Annapolis. We hit the center. There's a big round, and it's a big church in the middle of it. So there's 4 streets, but there's no names on those streets. And I'm going round and round, looking, going, I don't know, came from that direction. No, that's not. And I don't have trouble making decisions. And I must have gone around that thing 30 times trying to figure out which direction this thing is.
Yeah.
Finally, I see a guy over on the side. He's on a park bench and he's playing a banjo. A banjo. And I thought, he's got to be local, man. So I pulled around, I hit the window, and before I could say anything, he yelled out, "Don't quit now, kid. You're in second place." It's just like, what do you do? And I laugh. Things like that happen constantly. So.
Well, and like you mentioned too, you've shared the stage with so many incredible artists, like Elton John and so many of these that, just amazing artists, and also of all styles of music, but also a number of artists, have played your songs as a songwriter.
Right.
And that has to be humbling. And also when your songs are used in TV and film.
Right.
Never a bad thing.
No, it's not a bad thing at all. As a matter of fact, it's hard to do that because I was putting a lot of songs in music, or music in film and stuff.
Yeah.
One of the funniest stories was we had a song called "Looking Up from a Long Way Down" for a film called Major League 3 Back to the Minors. So they had another guy, because again, I'm past, so they need somebody that's current that can get on the radio. And they picked this song as the single. Well, he was on Mike Curb's label, and on the Curb label. So Mike is there. We'd never met before. Now, I'm an artist. I'm a bohemian. I go this way. Curb's a business guy. He goes this way.
Right.
He's a suit. We just went. And so we're standing there trying to find some common ground. And finally he looked at me and he said, "So, are you still in music?" And I thought, hands down, that's got to be the dumbest question I've ever been asked. And I said, "Yeah, it's a lot like being in the mob. We take a blood oath." And now all of a sudden he's like, "Okay," he's trying to find a way out of there. And I said, "I wrote the song." And he went, "Oh."
Oh, that's incredible.
But you've always got your fingers in it somewhere.
Right. Well, and certainly, you came to Nashville a lot in the late 90s and then moved your whole family here in 1999 and have been here ever since.
Right. I mean, I'm a Southern boy. I really am. I came from Texas. My roots are all Southern. They came around. It's like what was the other night? I played with Air Supply in Atlanta. And I just tell everybody, you see that sign, Paces Ferry Road? That's my family. They ones that did that. And so you have that kind of history, and I'm a history freak anyway.
Oh, me too.
And it becomes exciting because you're in places that you've probably been genetically before.
Right. Well, and speaking of which, places where you may have some new songs coming out and maybe another album in the next year or so?
I hope so, yeah. We're always writing. I do a lot of things with Tom Wurth. You know Tom.
Tom's incredible.
Tom's an incredible artist, producer. Yeah. And so he's always going, "John, come on, let's get going." Right. And we're going to do it again.
Oh, I can't wait. You're going to have to keep us up to date on that. I want to make sure also, John, to where, for the tour, for the music, for the streaming. I know you're working with Star Vista Music, which is doing great on streaming your stuff too. Right. But I still like having your albums on vinyl, and I do have some of your old ones on vinyl still.
Well, if you're tactical, it's like, for me, I love the liner notes.
Oh, so do I.
And that's where you find out what the songs are. You find the backstory. You find out who wrote the song, who played on the song. That, for me, because again, you came in the same era. Yeah. You would buy the vinyl. You'd sit there and you'd listen to the record, and you would be reading the liner notes the whole time. So
and look at all the musicians that were on and who produced it.
Yeah.
What studio it was recorded at. To me, that's the depth of it, just like history.
Yeah. And you get the backstory. So you find out what the song's about.
Right. And the great photos.
There was a lot of great photos. As a matter of fact, okay, that was it. Dan and I had done an album in 1974. It was the last one on A&M Records. We didn't realize it was going to be the last one on A&M Records, but it was the last one. So they never released it. And then when Really Love to See You Tonight came out, they turned around and put some of the songs from the third album on with the first album and called it I Hear the Music.
Right.
Well, somebody called me about 2 years ago and they said, do you have that third album? I said, no, I don't. I'm looking for some of the songs on that thing. He said, well, I found a master of it. I went, what do you want?
Right.
I'll buy it.
Yeah.
So he sent it to me and I released it. So it's the old England Dan and John Ford Coley. Wow. Now the old England Dan and John Ford Coley, before we went commercial and had the hair, it was more musical. Because we would go into the record companies, and back during that time, you could go into the record company, play your songs for them, and they would determine whether they wanted you or not, whether they liked the stuff. And they would inevitably ask us after we played, what are you guys? Are you country, you pop, you rock, you folk, you fusion jazz, you classical? What are you? We'd go, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Because we played it all.
Totally. Well, especially with your classically trained background in piano. But I want to make sure too, and I got to bring this up, brag on you again before we do this. You guys were huge in Japan, Israel, and France. You had hits there before the U.S. You guys were like the Jimi Hendrix of that.
Yeah. The other night there was a couple that came up, and they were from Brazil, and I went, "Do you remember a song called Come Back to Me?" And they go, "From the soap opera." And I went, yeah. And they went, yeah. It was like.
Yeah,
you never know.
There you go. You're like an international star, John.
Well, we just got blessed. I'm going to tell you right now. As far as I'm concerned, in a point in my life, I think God reached down, kissed me on the head, and said, "Son, go have some fun," and that was about it.
Well, and I'll tell you, you have, and the music keeps being incredible. I want to make sure for our viewers, with your website, to see you live, also to get all the music streams, and for your social media, where do our viewers need to go?
Well, JohnFordColey.com. It replaced the brutally handsome and humble JohnFordColey.com. No, just JohnFordColey.com. And actually, my social media, I had to change the name because some guy scammed me, took over my entire pages. So I lost John Ford Coley, and I had to drop to John F. Coley. So you can find me there. But we just laugh and joke on that page. Sometimes I'll talk about where I'm going to be playing, but we just laugh. I'll put up funny stuff. We talk about pie. If you can fight and argue about pie, more power to you. But
exactly.
I don't want anything divisive or nasty on there. It's just for music.
I'll tell you what, be sure and check out all of John's music, though. Go see him live. He's going to be out on tour with other great rock artists. You'll get to hear the past catalog, but also his incredible solo work. More new songs coming out. Also buy a copy of the book, because I get the feeling in the next year or so there's going to be an updated copy of Backstage Pass. It's great having you on the show. Sketches Volume 1. Be sure and stream it. John Ford Coley, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
The Rocket Review is sponsored by Why Not Saloon.